Okay, we're live on air, so let's discuss what has happened. I've been ill the last 2 weeks, so I didn't have any voice to talk. So I'm doing a small comeback again, and so the big topic, which has interested me the last week, has been the basically the Donald Trump banning stuff, or not banning, but to talking about video games being violent. But let's introduce our guests for today. DDR Freak, say hello,
Hello.
and Salt.
Greetings, everybody.
Yeah.
Greetings.
So let me screen share. So everyone can see, present to everyone. Alrighty, we're gonna start out with the Dailywire one,
Mhm.
and just take it from there. Do you want me to read it out?
I don't think we necessarily need to read it. I mean, you have the links down below in the description, right?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. I think we could just go right
Oh,
into talking about it, and if people want to read it later, they absolutely
I
can.
want to read this one. The other one we can just talk about generally, but I
Okay.
thought this one, at least this one, I wanted to go over.
All right, I have the requisite snarky tone.
All right.
Do it.
President Trump held a meeting on Thursday to discuss violence in video games. It's been said that he blames mass shooting on video games, but that's not actually his position. That's not anybody's position. Nobody thinks that a child who plays a violent game will automatically go out and kill real people. Nobody thinks that video games are the only factor contributing to the problem. The pro-video game people prefer to rail against an argument nobody is making because they cannot respond to the extremely logical and irrefutable, his words, not mine, argument people are making. Here's what President Trump said. We have to look at the internet because a lot of bad things are happening to young kids and young minds, and their minds are being formed. And also
Wrong.
video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts. My thoughts are the best. They're huge.
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 Shaping young people's thoughts, forming their minds. Yes, of course it has that effect. Of course a child is influenced by the images and ideas and sounds and messages that bombard his brain. Of course it isn't healthy for a child or anyone else to spend hours a day playing any sort of video game, least of all violent video games.
This right here is so goddamn retarded. Jesus Christ. And I love that in his first two paragraphs, he doesn't mention parents.
Yeah. Where's the parental involvement?
Well, interestingly enough, over the past couple of days, I've been archiving lots of damn articles. I don't have the specific article to hand because, gosh darn it, there was so much I was archiving and stuff that it's I have like hundreds of articles from just yesterday that I had to archive and everything. But there was one that I looked at that basically said that human nature, when children are raised, it's nature, not nurture, that really forms their minds and everything. So if someone is born with a violent disposition, it really could be the case that they were violent anyways without violent video games forming their mind.
But even so, parental involvement does have a significant and direct correlative connection to the development of a child and their moral compass. You know, a parent says, "Oh, hey, this Mortal Kombat game, sure it might be fun, but you're never going to do anything like that in real life." WWF is fun to watch. It's fun to pretend to be John Cena, but you're not going to pull it. But you're not going to pull a DDT and pile drive your best friend. You're going to kill him.
No.
Yeah, and it's also it's also fun to point out.
Don't start.
What?
Don't start with that.
Don't start with what?
Being tired.
No, I just woke up. I'm entitled to be tired.
I've been up for 9 hours now.
Yeah, I was walking around all day yesterday, so.
Oh, lucky you.
Well, no, it was painful.
Well,
but anyways, he says right here, you can cite the studies proving that violent video games don't contribute to violence in kids. I can cite the studies proving they do.
And that part rubbed me. Like that was one of those things that got under my skin a lot more than it should, because there are studies that say that video games don't contribute to violence in kids. And if this guy had even a modicum of decency and in journalism, and even knew like a very basic, would have at least included one study going against it.
He did
point and counterpoint. He didn't, though.
He provided a link to one.
He provided a link to one that says they do, but he doesn't provide a link to one that says that they don't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's almost
like people who cite all these studies like proving global warming, and then one guy's able to say, no, there's one study that says there's no such thing.
That we could get onto an interesting tangent on, but I'm gonna save that for another time, because that would be
evidence is overwhelming.
Unless you're in Canada.
No. Global warming is like it affects a lot of different things besides warming itself. There's
unless you're in Canada, in which case the evidence is null and void.
No, global warming doesn't work like that. Anyways,
like I said, this could be an hour-long debate.
Yeah,
or more.
I think
moving on.
But there are 99%. I'm reading a book called Moral Combat. Without the T, and it's basically a book-long analyzation of this effect, and they concluded no, video games don't contribute to violence at all. In fact, they say it's idiotic to blame video games for violence.
I mean, there's the IGN study I always cite when people start to really become stupid, because there was a big article that IGN put out where they tested 10,000 children, and it was conclusive that games did not make them any more aggressive. If anything, TV made them more aggressive than games. Was actually what the study proved.
Yeah, because there's an abstraction on the screen. Video games have not reached completely lifelike visuals, so there's an abstraction there. People know that what's happening on the screen in a video game isn't real. In fact, on films and television, the images are life. They're just recording life what's happening. So if anything, TV's probably, if anything, more responsible for violence in kids and everything, because the images are lifelike, and it's harder for a young developing brain to recognize the abstraction that's going on.
Yeah, and him saying that playing games isn't healthy for a child. I mean, take a non-violent game, for instance. Let's say something like Proteus, which is just basically an exploration game. How is that harmful for a child? I would to see his argument for this.
Well, you look at games like Tetris and puzzles; they can help build cognitive development and stuff. So his assertion that video games are entirely harmful for young kids is flat out wrong, because Tetris and puzzle games have been proven, just like crosswords, to help your brain develop in certain areas.
And Tetris is also scientifically proven to be more linked to more violent behavior than Grand Theft Auto, and more likely to incite violent behavior and aggression than Grand Theft Auto.
Wait, what? Can you link me that?
It was an article that I read on Game Politics. Good grief, had to have been almost a decade ago now. There was a study that went down where they basically looked at Grand Theft Auto and Tetris and I think like a Mario game or a Sonic game or something like that. And they found that users had higher levels of aggression and basically rage quitting due to Tetris.
Yeah.
Because you hit the skill level cap, and you can't go any further, and you rage quit. You're more likely to have aggressive responses to Tetris than Grand Theft Auto.
That's probably
Yeah, but to point out, this is not implying violence.
Correct.
It's merely aggression at the game and not
Correct.
towards other people. And if the aggression is there, it's short term.
But we're talking about academics that some of them have their head attached to their shoulders, others not so much.
Yeah. And here, if we take a look at this paragraph here, you can cite studies proving that violent video games don't contribute to violence in kids. I can cite the studies proving they do. And we can go round and round throwing studies at each other until it finally dawns on us that maybe some things can't really be proven or disproven with a study. You see, this is poisoning the well. Maybe some things are far too complex, buried far too deeply in the human mind to be quantified and categorized by a guy in a lab coat with a clip. So it's basically dismissing the science.
Yeah, this guy is really effed in the head if he thinks that studies can't, like, because I mean, science, it's one of those things where yes, the human mind is vast and you can't really get a handle on why it does the thing it does in an individual human, let alone the entire human race. But you can at least measure the outward effects of the human mind.
You can
right?
see patterns, you can see statistics, and draw some kind of conclusions.
Yeah, you can look at broad patterns of human behavior. And ever since Doom was released, funnily enough, if you look at violence in society, like violent crime, perpetrations of violence, ever since the release of Doom in like 1994, 1995, that line has been going down. It's almost like a cliff, like steadily downwards.
It's rather ironic how that works out. I know the image you're talking about. There's a little bit more nuance to it than just that, because it looks at violent crimes, but it left out one particular crime stat, and I can't remember which one it was, but it wasn't nearly as steep of a drop off when you factor in the other one.
If you could figure that out right now, that'd be pretty damn sweet, and I could refute your point.
I wish I had. I would. I had to do a ton of. It was another screenshot that somebody posted in a Twitter chain years ago, and yeah, I can't refute it nearly as cleanly and quickly as I would like.
Yeah, and here again, the guy is again poisoning the well and saying some mass shooters weren't video games fans. Some were. The Sandy Hook school shooter was obsessed with video games. He made 83,000 online kills before he went out and killed 20 children. Are you going to tell me that you're positive his hours upon hours spent stewing in virtual violence had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with his murder spree? Yeah.
And how are you going to prove that? With a study?
Prove
a survey of some other parents' kids will tell me what is going on in the dark recesses of the Sandy Hook school shooter's mind. No, this guy.
My KDA is pretty shit, so I mean, I'm one to. I have no horse in this race.
I have an image here. I found a link. Let me see here. Sound and vision.
This is the shit that pisses me off. And then said, how are you going to prove that with a study, a survey of some other parents and kids will tell me what was going on in the dark recesses of Sandy Hook's school shooter's mind? This is supposed to be your job if you're supposed to present an argument for the other side, and you're doing a terrible job.
1 second, sorry. No, I mean, this guy is basically saying, okay, so he made 1 billion online kills before he went out, and he's looking at a screen, and trust me, his mind is recognizing the abstraction. He's not killing actual people. He's not training to kill actual people, because video game shooters, believe it or not, don't teach you how to shoot. They
really don't.
They can make you more confident in your skills if you were aiming, but they don't teach you how to hold a gun, how to handle a gun, how to do all the sorts of things. They may make you more interested in owning a gun, but no one has been able to say, oh, when that interest compounds over to wanting to kill people.
If anything, playing Time Crisis or Area 51 would make you a better shot. Hell, actually, you really want to become a crack shot? You'll play House of the Dead 1 and 2. I swear, firing into melee when you've got trying to put 6 rounds into a zombie when they're heading towards a civvy and you don't want to shoot the civvy, that takes some skill. That takes some practice, and you become a crack shot really quick.
Well, if you use this kind of transference, as we might call it, of skill from game to real life, why aren't there more gamers that are really, really awesome at, say, sports? Just or maybe, well, I don't know, jumping and doing parkour.
Why? Well, some people could have been inspired to try it by platform.
Yeah, but you need training. You just can't just pick it up like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you play Mirror's Edge and then go out and do, yeah, you're gonna fall on your ass.
And jumping and all that.
Yeah, you're gonna fall on your ass unless you're trained.
Right.
You spent hours actually mastering that stuff. So this so-called quote-unquote transference of skill into the real world is just it's
very minimal.
Yeah, and if you also take his logic, so this one person made 83,000 online kills before he went out. So how about I think there are. Well, I think it was 150 million or so. A few years ago, ESA made a study and figured out it was over a third, at least a half or a little more, than Americans play video games. So let's just say roughly 150 million people, and let's say let's give a rough number. Let's just be a little conservative and say, I don't know, 30 million are hardcore gamers and have done even more kills than this guy online, but none of them have gone out and shot anyone.
Well, I remember when Bungie left the Halo series, they actually released an infographic of how many kills in Halo and Halo 2 and Halo 3 had been performed, and they said over 100 billion kills in Halo. Thank you for your time with us. And I'm thinking, if this guy is arguing that this guy, let's say it's Sandy Hook shooter, he went in, killed what, 16, 26?
20.
20. And out of 83,000 kills, so he's arguing, okay, so he killed that many, he'll surely kill this many. That 100 billion kills in Halo 2, in Halo 3, and Halo 1 should have transferred over to the real world. We'd all be dead. We'd all be dead.
Yeah.
So this guy is wrong on that. And let's just continue this article. Perhaps we should just try to apply some common sense to this issue. Here's what common sense tells me.
Common sense.
I don't think you know what the word common sense means, you idiot.
I think he's trying to use the moral relativism as his argument and make his moral relativism as common sense.
Yeah, a moderate video game habit, not involving graphic and violent games, will not harm a child. As of 2014, the number is surely higher now, the average American over the age of 13 played video games for about an hour a day. An hour a day for a child is probably already too much, no matter what type of game.
Bullshit.
If that were his only screen time, it might be fine, but it's not. He's also on his computer, on his phone, watching TV. Almost half of all parents report that the TV is always on in their house. That's not good. Kids need to read books. They need to play outside. They need to have conversations with their parents. They need to develop interests and hobbies and skills that don't involve staring into glowing boxes.
This is the
one point that I actually agree with him on, but for not the reasons that he gives. Yeah. My reasons for agreeing with him are that it's a good thing to be a well-rounded individual and have multiple interests, multiple things to occupy your time, so that if one thing isn't in the cards, you have something else to fall back on. Yes. Not to mention, reading a book is actually a halfway decent thing to be able to do in the first place. Yeah. So I mean, there's plenty of literature out there that I fully intend to dive my kids into as soon as they're old enough to comprehend it. I mean, shit, I read Swiss Family Robinson back when I was in 4th grade, and they called that an 8th grade book at the time.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm reading through East of Eden right now, and I just bought it yesterday, and it's a wonderful book. It's always good to round out your interests and stuff. And this guy might have a point in that area, but he's also
Yeah, but
this
that's
guy.
not the
he's
point.
missing
This
the point in
guy,
the process.
yeah, this guy is basically saying because of the time you spend playing video games, you're more likely to be a killer, basically.
Yeah, but I also get the sense, like get off my lawn type of attitude.
Yeah, like an
Oh,
80-year-old
yeah.
man yelling at his kids, like, stop being interested in things I don't like.
Stop
I
liking what I don't like.
Yeah, and I just have the
pretty much
picture of
spot on.
all. Yeah, I just have the picture of old man yelling at clouds image in
Yeah.
my head. Because that's what he's saying. Oh, it's so bad. People are playing games 1 hour. 1 hour. How is that even a bad thing?
And there's also the evolutionary counterpoint. Humanity, in all of its glory, with all of its well-rounded interests, has been destroying the rest of the world, basically. Being a well-rounded person. To read a book, you have to cut down some trees, just as an example. How I would say that being in a virtual world is less harmful to the entire world almost than like going out and like being, let's say, an outdoorsman and littering all along the hiking trail as you're doing so, right?
I would say it's all relative, because, but saying one thing is worth, like saying reading books is subjectively better than playing games is just a really stupid argument to make.
There's also the other counterpoint, which is that
how many of those teens are having sex and finding themselves unwanted pregnancies.
And here's also the other counterpoint. In Steven Pinker's book, Better Angels of Our Nature. Have you heard about that book?
Not familiar with it, no.
I've heard of Steven Pinker, but I'm not
The Better Angels of Our Nature is basically a book that basically proves that humanity has been going on a downward course in terms of violent behavior since about the 1600s, actually. But if you look back at the early 20th century, they didn't have video games. They didn't have violent video games, and yet they were still the most violent people in the world. Actually, in Dan Carlin's podcast, Hardcore History, where in the series Blueprint for Armageddon, he quotes a passage where all the British soldiers and all the German soldiers had grown up educated, had grown up to see the beauty in the world, had read all the classics, and still they were killing each other in the mud. And a century of middle-class love was unleashed on that battlefield. And they were still violent. Millions of people died in the First World War. And they didn't have violent video games to prod them.
Yeah.
Violence has been going down despite video games being released. And in fact, if you wanted to prove, quote unquote, that video games were violence, you would have to see a correlation in the data after every violent video game's release. Like, say, after every Call of Duty release, violence goes up. Like, it goes up a statistically significant amount.
Well, no, the thing is, you have to give it some time for people to play the game and then go out and do the violence.
Yeah, there should still be that bump at some point after. And we've had, 10 years of yearly Call of Duty releases? No, 15 years of Call of Duty releases.
Shit, you're right.
And there has been no bump. There has been no bump.
Yeah, and if we take, I don't know if you saw the White House video. Did you guys see that?
No.
Nope.
They unlisted it. I probably have it downloaded somewhere, but just in case they take it down completely. But in that clip, they basically just included clips that were 10 years or older, and they of course had From Russia with Love from Modern Warfare 2.
No Russian.
No Russian is what you're thinking of.
Well, the airport, the infamous airport scene.
It's the same tactic. It is the same tactic Anita Sarkeesian used when she was making her feminist frequency videos. She cherry picks edited video, cherry picks to give this impression that every game is immediately kill innocent people. No, the objective of No Russian video was actually you could choose not to participate, but you had to watch it happen. It was making an artistic statement, as blunt as it was. But Anita Sarkeesian and Trump are basically arguing the same point from different angles. Video games are bad for you.
Yeah, but the point I was making was, if that would be any indicator, that there would have been more shootings at airports after that game was released.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because there wasn't.
And when you think about it, a lot of the, it's as macabre as it is for me to say. Currently, in the States, our airport security is one terrorist attack away from another disaster. The way that the queue lines are set up, the way that security checkpoints are operated, it is a powder keg.
Well, terrorism is like nuclear war, a thing of attrition. Something's going to get through.
Exactly. But more to my point, having flown internationally within the past 10 years, and several times I might add, the United States has just the worst possible airport security, because you bunch up everyone at these security checkpoints. You have groups, hundreds, dozens, if not hundreds of people waiting to be checked. All it takes is one guy to get in the middle of the crowd with an explosive vest. He detonates, everybody panics, and then they got another group comes in in the chaos, in the confusion, and you've got yourself a massacre. And I'm probably on an FBI watch list for saying that.
Jesus, DDR! Now this stream's going to be banned because of you.
Shut up.
Yeah, but the point is, which we're trying to make is, if games are any indication, this scene alone would have increased terror attacks and just shootings at airports significantly, which has not happened at all.
Well, sorry, it's funny for you to say that. Actually, terrorist incidents have gone up in the recent years, so you know.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
airports, though.
Well, they've certainly tried.
Well, no, I'm talking about America, because he's talking from an American perspective. If you take the one in Turkey, I mean, that would be
level of totality. Basically, is what we're saying is that overall violence in the world has gone down, despite the entire rest of the world also possessing video games as well, violent video games too.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of the world doesn't play nearly as much of the Call of Duty type games. FIFA is king. Let's be honest, and Andy can back me up on that. FIFA is king in Europe.
Yeah, FIFA.
Well, I'd like to look at the sales figures, because the rest of the world has more people than America combined. So, I'd like to see like concrete numbers for how many people play Call of Duty in other countries before we just say, "Oh, it's only American. It's only an American problem."
I can't speak to Call of Duty, but I can speak to the Nintendo games. Andrew Eisen, who used to be a moderator for Game Politics, put out a video during the Operation Rainfall thing for the Nintendo Wii, when they had like Xenoblade Chronicles and Disaster Day of Crisis and Fatal Frame and all these games that had European releases but weren't coming to the States. He ran and went and checked the numbers for the Nintendo releases that saw US and Japanese releases. The US outsold Japan 3-1 in terms of copies moved.
Well, how old is that study?
That was 2008, but that was for GameCube and Wii titles.
GameCube.
Yeah, but
you may laugh, but the point still stands. The U.S. bought 3 times as many Nintendo first-party titles.
Well, the world has changed a lot in a decade, so those numbers are probably different now. But regardless,
but still statistically relevant.
Yeah, I'm not arguing it's not. It's just the world has changed in a decade. Those numbers might be significantly different. They might.
Possible.
Yeah. Let's continue with this article.
Anyways.
If the average time spent on video games is about an hour a day, that means a significant amount of people spend significantly more time playing them. I personally know of some kids who play video games for 2 or 3 hours a day, maybe more.
Oh, the humanity!
No matter if the games are violent or not, that's not healthy. I don't care what your studies say. As a human being with a brain, I am able to determine that a child should not spend every moment of his free time escaping into virtual reality. He should be a human being doing human being things. All of this time in video game land isolates him.
I agreed with him on the should not be spending every moment in virtual reality. I agreed with the doing human things, but the isolation part, I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Let me read the next paragraph because it's kind of the same point. If I wanted to win the study competition, oh God, listen to this guy, I'd point to the multiple studies showing a link between depression and video game usage, but I won't point to them because common sense should already confirm the link. A person needs
that
sunlight.
Which can be asserted without evidence can be just as easily dismissed without evidence. Post your sources, fuckwad.
A person needs sunlight, human interaction, human experience, fresh air. It is depressing to have a life deprived of those things. Can we find some sort of link between the isolation caused by a video game obsession, the depression caused by the isolation, and violence? Probably. That would seem to make sense. At least we could say this about a boy who becomes violent after years of isolation in virtual reality. It sure didn't help. Or do I need a scientist to tell me that?
Oh my God. Okay.
It sure didn't help. Now he's asking us to prove a negative.
Yeah, so first of all, this here. So I personally know of some kids who play video game for 2-3 hours or maybe more, but statistically it's still 1 hour. So just as many play more than less than 1 hour. So a lot of people don't play at all. So his logic is fucking retarded when it comes to this, and when it comes to depression, that is not linked to games. And a lot of games, there are studies that back this up, that help people with depression and other mental illnesses.
Like Zoe Quinn's Depression Quest?
No, except that one.
Well, I have to admit, I have to admit, before someone points it out on my channel and believes me to be a hypocrite, I actually played that game on my channel for about an hour and a half, and the game did sort of like help me understand a bit about how other people go through depression, but I don't think it'll help someone with depression so much as it'll help them go oh, other people are suffering depression too. Like that's kind of not helpful.
Yeah, but
company.
The point I'm trying to make is that video games actually help people who suffer from the depression or whatever it is. And for him say, oh, years of isolation in virtual reality, it shouldn't help. Or do I need a scientist to tell me that? Oh my God. This guy has
so flippant.
This is the second time this guy has now just disregarded science in general.
Well, he seems to think that what's that thing in studies that's almost always disregarded, and when you're actually doing a serious study, it's like what's the term for it? No. Like anecdotal experiences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's using anecdotal experiences to basically say, oh, because I saw this, that means that I know more about it. The anecdotal experiences, no matter how relevant you think they are almost always disregarded in serious studies because, well, it's just the point. Like you think that's 100% of the experience, whereas in fact a study may show that's like 0.00001% of the experience, and you're just happening to notice that. So this guy is basically saying, oh, because I saw this and this and this, that I know more than you. And yeah, that's very flippant of him. In fact, fuck this guy.
It does not bode well for him. It really, to be honest, it really does not bode well for him, and it does not give his case much in the way of merit.
Yeah, he's just digging his own grave within the article itself.
And if I may interject like a personal experience, when I was a kid...
No, it's anecdotal evidence.
Well, according to this guy, Salt's anecdotal experience is just as valid as his.
Yeah, so, allow me to say, like, as a kid, I'm not, like, saying my study is indicative, but if it helps me, it probably helps one other person. So, that's significant enough for me. when I was a kid, up to the present day, and suffering through depression and stuff, like video games were a help to me. Like they were extreme help to me, like getting through the day and stuff. Because, you know, the best thing when you're in depressive state is to do things, right? So a video game at least helps you have the illusion of doing something. So, you know, it helped me. Like Halo helped me, Fire Emblem helped me, the Hitman series helped me, Call of Duty helped me, like all this sorts of stuff. So this guy is basically saying depression and video game. This guy is saying there's a link between depression and video game uses. I'd argue that it's just a concurrent thing.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you on that. I mean, Warframe helped me get through my 5 months of unemployment in 2014.
Yeah, and there was a book I was reading called I think it was not State of Play. What was the name of it? Anyways, there was this author, and he was basically saying Grand Theft Auto 4 helped me through depression, and how he identified with Nico in that game and everything. And he was basically writing, this helped me through depression, helped me through years of unemployment and stuff before I became a video game writer.
Well, there we go. You know, and not only that, but you can take a child's obsession with video games and turn it into something productive too. I mean, you get a kid that wants to make video games for a living. They could take the art route. They could take the 3D modeling route, in which case there's drawing, rendering, modeling that you can do for that. If you want to do like the engine side of things, you know, making the physics engines and stuff, then there's the math and computer science angle for that. Yeah,
I mean, or you could look at a game like Train Simulator, like if that game helps make a person interested in trains, maybe they could become a train engineer, and
they wouldn't be able to afford it. They'd be spending too much on the DLC.
That's a good
Anyways,
point.
Let's continue with this next paragraph. What about violent video games? Well, there's no reason to focus this part of the conversation only on kids. It's not good or healthy for anyone to play graphic, disturbing, gory video games. Certainly, it won't make you a better person. And it's very hard to imagine that the effect is neutral. Nothing is really neutral for human beings. Everything we do either makes us better or worse. Hours a day pretending to kill people in virtual reality must logically fall into the worst category.
Citation fucking needed. Seriously. You can't just make these bold goddamn claims and then have no citations. There are no citations.
You want to talk about productive members of society and all that. I mean, you look at me. I mean, I've got a video game collection that's worth more than my 4-year-old car, and I own my house. I own my own house. I'm gainfully employed, and oh, by the way, I rented out 2 bedrooms to people last year. Made additional income that then Uncle Sam then pinched off a good 30% of that under capital gains. You want to tell me that I'm not a productive member of society and not a helpful person?
Well, the argument could also be made that there's nothing that says that being productive in and of itself is necessarily positive either. Because, I mean, look at Martin Shkreli. He was a productive member of society.
Yeah.
True.
Like, there's productive people, there's productive members of society that turn out to be absolute monsters for humanity and everything else. Yeah, so, you know, being productive in and of itself is not a positive.
That's a good point. I mean,
conceded. All right, I'll give you that one.
People could also claim the same about Ted Bundy before he went all wacko.
Or Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Fair.
I mean, Charles Manson was a musician. He released albums before he went crazy.
Hitler was a painter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this guy is basically saying, oh, you need to go out there and be a human. Being a human is what got us into this mess in the first place. As sad as it is to say.
You're not wrong.
Okay, let me continue with this next paragraph. This is where some video game apologists devolve into incoherence. Video games are a sacred cow because people are desperate to justify the last 8,000 hours of their lives that they wasted on them.
Wrong, I didn't waste it. It was not wasted.
So they'll often pretend there's nothing toxic about violent video games at all. They'll say something silly like,
wrong.
It's just pretend.
League of Legends is so toxic.
It's just pretend. I'm just shooting at pixels. It's not turning me into a serial killer. We
Again.
all know it's pretend. We all know the images are digital. We know you are not a serial killer. But the fact remains that you still enjoy pretending to kill people. Your favorite recreational activity is to pretend that you are killing people. You will probably never, ever kill a single person in real life, but it's still not good that you think about it. It's unhealthy. It's still pretty disturbing that you find so much joy in simulated death and destruction. I say the same thing about people who love bleak, graphic torture porn movies. A healthy, well-adjusted, morally aware person would find no enjoyment whatsoever in those films. Not because he thinks they're real, but simply because he has no interest in entering a fantasy world filled with blood and death.
I have to step in on this one.
Go ahead.
Because this is... I actually have a very relevant story of something that happened to me, specifically. So, back when my now wife and I were dating, we were part of an 18 to 35 S&M group here in the local area that placed an emphasis on learning, proper, safety when engaging in dangerous activities. You know the drill. And they would have what would be called play parties, and they'd be at somebody's house, respected member of the community, and there'd be like 20, 30, 40 people there. Very quiet. People would have it. There would be a space set aside if people wanted to get naked and do whatever they wanted to do to get their rocks off. But the emphasis being that it was a place where there were people who would step in if something would get out of hand.
Yep.
And so wife and I are watching three gals getting ready with their boyfriends to go have some fun with the three of them simultaneously. Somebody pokes their head out of a side room saying that they're going to be drawing blood, and just want to make sure that wouldn't be anybody that's super squeamish about it. I'm like, as long as I don't look, I'm okay. Cool, whatever.
I looked.
Wife had that morbid curiosity, and she loves the Hostel movies, which is why I bring this up. Terrified of bodily fluids. Terrified of bodily fluids. But she had that morbid curiosity of what's gonna happen. So she's watching. So she goes over to watch, and you can see it. She's got this look of like, "Oh my God, what are they doing?" That's kind of fascinating. That sort of look, and the scene wraps up. Their little session finishes up. They're cleaning up and all that, and she motions me over, and I see the aftermath, and there's a lot of blood all over the place, and you get the idea. And she's describing what happened. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, not for me, but sure, cool. We turn around and watch the other activities. I look down at my water bottle, and I feel a tingly sensation at the back of my head. Next thing I know, I'm opening up my eyes, and there's this person standing over me, and I'm laying down. And what the hell just happened? Turns out I fainted.
Oh, damn.
The guy standing over me was an army medic who had done 2 tours in, like, I think he said Afghanistan and maybe Iraq as well. I can't remember. Anyways, army medic done 2 tours. He knew exactly what had happened, and he just sat me up. We went upstairs, had some food, drank some water, and I was fine. But to that point, I enjoy Resident Evil. I enjoy Shadows of the Damned. There's a lot of blood and gore in those games, but it doesn't affect me as much. I get to the real thing, and oh my God, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I have a human reaction to this shit.
Yeah, most people do. Also, as a counterpoint, if you weren't on a government watch list before, you are now.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure I've been watched for the past couple of years now. At this point, I just don't give a shit.
Yeah, but again, if you take what you have a healthy reaction to blood, let's say, but this guy again, being the moral relativist, because his morals are beyond reproach, So a healthy, well-adjusted, morally aware person would find no enjoyment whatsoever in those films. This guy's literally saying, "Thought police, you are not. This is haram. You are not allowed to enjoy this shit."
Well, funnily enough,
Excuse
that
me,
DDR
sir. I
mentioned,
think you've had a little bit too much to think.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, that DDR mentioned Hostel. When I was a teenager, I went, regrettably, to see the movie Hostel. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll spare you most of the details. But suffice it to say that the whole point of the movie, the whole attraction, is to watch young people get tortured and brutalized and hacked to pieces. I hated the movie and wished I had never seen it. My friend loved it. He should not have loved it. There's nothing to love. He has not since turned into a serial killer, as far as I know, but it still is not good for a human being to take delight in such ugliness.
Oh my god.
This guy needs to be like put in one of those holes and then have Buffalo Bill up above him and says, "The lotion goes in the basket."
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Or else I'll throw my dog down in there with you. No, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Because the dog don't come out after that.
That's one of the major effects of the violent video games movies certainly do have on a person. They feed the twisted part of his brain that delights in ugliness. We all have that in us.
It makes Jack a dull boy.
To some extent, in one form or another. But we should not indulge that instinct. We should not embrace and fuel it. We bring ourselves into dark places when we do. Even if the dark place does not involve shooting up a school, it is still a dark place, and it is better to be in the light.
Dude, where did this guy get his fucking psychology degree? Because nothing he's saying makes any sort of sense. What the fuck is he talking about? I'm sorry I'm swearing so much, but I'm getting really, really fucking irritated at this this stupid ass.
What we have here is a Puritan, and the definition of a Puritan is that somewhere, somehow, someone might be happy. And they don't want that to happen.
Stop liking what I don't like.
It's exactly.
Yeah, and the vast experience of human history of like, going back to my evolutionary counterpoint, the world is becoming steadily more mechanized, steadily more virtual in a lot of ways. Like, who's to say that the virtual way is the wrong way to be going forward for humanity?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And like, even if we indulge in violent interests in the virtual world, that's still the virtual world. We're not killing real people and real people in combat. Like, you can read stories of people in combat all the time. They're saying, nothing prepared me for this. Even if they did end up playing violent video games, nothing has prepared me for the amount of inhumanity. People have a natural revulsion to actual violence. Yeah. But you can look at play
Spec Ops: The Line by any chance?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Beautiful game.
Yeah.
Difficult to sit through, but beautiful game, and a good story to boot.
Really interesting take. I haven't seen a game take on something like that in such a way, and such a gripping way. Really interesting game.
And it tells you this is one of the loading screens. It tells you this is all your fault. I mean, you want to twist the knife in your back there, and it really does it.
Yeah, but there was this one book about the thing calling that analyzed the game and basically said, like, oh, the game is making the point that there's no, we shouldn't feel guilt for killing virtual people, but we should. The author of the book, Killing is Easy, and I actually have the PDF file on my person. The guy basically is saying, oh, video game violence. The guy basically implies throughout the entire book that, oh, in my opinion, video game violence is bad for people because we're still focusing on killing virtual people. Like, yeah, the game was making you feel guilty about killing people, but it was an abstraction argument over American involvement in the Middle East, really, more than it was a condemnation of people playing violent video games.
Yeah, it was also so. You could also look at it in another way, where it was a comment on mental health as well.
Mm-hmm. Or like how in real life situations we can think we're doing the right thing and yet end up being a monster. Like, there's so many layers to that game that arguing that its point was we shouldn't be killing people in the virtual world. Well, that's not the only point it was trying to make, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I would also posit actually was back when Kotaku actually had halfway decent articles. They had an interesting commentary about the ending from Spec Ops. Is it alright if I spoil part of the ending?
Oh, go ahead.
So that you meet
spoiler alert, everyone.
Yeah, spoiler alert. You actually wind up meeting the was it the colonel or the general or the commander that was in charge of the
Troops.
the troops in Dubai.
Yeah.
And he has this monologue that's really fascinating. He's like, why did you sign up for the army? Why did you want to be a hero? Did you want to make a difference?
Do you feel like a hero yet?
Yeah, and it was one of those things where you look at it and like, holy shit, he's right. You know, there was a lot of parallels between being a soldier going off to war and playing a video game and shooting up a bunch of enemies because they're the enemy. But what was your real motivation? And it was an interesting little article to read, just from the standpoint of, he's kind of right in this, that the game went out of its way to make you feel bad for what you did, but at the same time you sort of realize that it was kind of a necessary evil in a sense.
Yeah, but then it's also commentary on the ends don't always justify the means, and you also hear this from your comrades in the mission, that are you sure this is the right thing to do? But they still continue doing that.
The point is that the game is nuanced. It has depth. Like, you can look at any one of the themes to prove any point you want, but you can't ignore all the other themes at play.
Mm-hmm. You get no argument out of me there.
It's one of the greatest works of art in video game history. That's all we're going to say.
Yeah. Also up there would be, I would also put L.A. Noire into that category as well.
I doubt.
Fuck you. I liked that game.
Doubt.
Well, let's continue.
The other effect is desensitization. A person should be horrified by brutality and violence. We should be sickened by it. We should not take pleasure in it, and neither should we be neutral toward it. It is clear that a lot of kids today, a lot of people generally, have a certain numbness, a certain emptiness inside them. They do not recoil at evil. They do not feel disgust at disgusting things.
I already disproved that one.
Yeah, this is at least partly because they spend so much of their time in a disgusting virtual world pretending to do disgusting things for fun. The internet also plays a part in the desensitization. Social media, movies, television, all of these things have interfered with our ability to react and respond like human beings. You've got to get mad! So video games are not the only culprit, but they are a culprit. And for some people, the people who play a lot of video games, and especially a lot of very violent video games, they probably are a major culprit. I believe that everything I've said here is rather self-evident. The people who lash out against it mostly do so because they want to defend their own recreational interests. I've learned that the most offensive thing you can do in modern society is criticize a person's entertainment choices. And I think that, more than anything, proves that you should.
These two last paragraphs, the only thing I can think about is...
It's true. It's true. Oh my god.
What does Matt Walsh look like? Let me just Google that up. Matt Walsh.
Should be.
Oh my god, he looks like Louis C.K. But no, wait, that's an actor. Sorry, Matt Walsh, writer.
Here, I have it on my screen. It looks like such a bro.
It looks like Godfrey Elphick.
Yeah.
His beard looks painted on. His beard looks painted on. His face looks very punchable.
Yeah, but what like this all culminates in this paragraph alone. Like, you should not do this. Do not do this. Ah!
Why are you doing this? You're a sick, disgusting human being. They also said the same thing about comic books back in the 50s, okay?
Here. Yeah. I believe that everything I said here is rather self-evident.
No, it's not.
They said the same things about rock and roll. They said the same things about heavy metal. They said the same things about Dungeons and Dragons. We've been here before. Your argument is stupid. That is self-evident.
And still invalid. I still, however, I love the if you ever get the chance, go back and watch the entire PMRC hearing in Congress. It was like 1989, 1990, something like that. Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, Frank Zappa, and John Denver were in a congressional hearing, and you have Miss Tipper Gore to thank for this one, which was the comments coming out. The comments from Snyder and Zappa specifically were delightfully pithy and very no, you're in the wrong here. This is a stupid idea, and oh my god, I love it. It's like an hour and a half long, but go watch it. I mean, seriously, it is beautiful because you look at it now and it's history. You see history repeating itself all over again. You really do.
Oh yes. Well, this happened in the 90s with video games too. After Mortal Kombat, that spurred the formation of the ESRB. So this has happened so many.
Mortal Kombat came out.
Yeah, this whole situation is so beyond funny to see history repeat itself so many damn times over so many different subjects that you'd think the argument would have been settled. But no, they keep finding reasons. And thanks, Anita Sarkeesian, by the way. Thank you very much for being a goddamn idiot and trying to prove that you're oh so superior morally to other people.
Yeah, I find it hilarious, though. Kukuruyo had a fantastic on the Gamergate Life in cartoons she does. Had Anita talking about how video games are, the violence is bad and this, that, and the other. Then Trump standing right behind her saying, "I agree. We should," and she goes, "No, I love video games. I don't like this Trump person."
Yeah, I'm about to show that actually some of the quotes, but this sentence alone, it just reeks of delusions of grandeur, and I think the entire article is just projection.
Why are people around me so mean to me? It must be video games' fault.
Yeah, and because of the right now, just out of the blue, going after games, even though Dailywire always claims to be pro free speech because it's run by Ben Shapiro. Hold on. See, I love violent video games. Oh, Polygon. Oh.
Could have fooled me.
Oh, would you look at this? Oh, what are they saying? Hold on. Oh, study links time spent playing violent video games with aggressive behavior. Oh, did you say you loved violent? Oh, curing the country of gun violence requires research into video games. Oh, are you sure about this, Polygon? Oh no! American Psychological Association affirms links between violent video games and aggression. Oh, are you really pro-violent video games? And there's another one, huh? There's another one. Come on, it's lagging a little bit. Stop using extreme violence to sell your game. Oh,
it's time to step back and recognize the connotation of imagery.
I saw that response yesterday, I think, and I'm like, oh.
Where's the tweet from?
I actually had an argument with Brian Crescente like a week or so ago.
Yeah, I saw that actually.
Over one of his.
I stayed out of that one.
I really could have used the support because the guy was basically just going.
Here's the actual violent crime going down, as you can see.
Yeah. But also, let me continue. Brian Crescente basically was saying, I didn't argue that video games cause mass shootings. And I'm like, you're arguing it in kind of like a backdoor way. You're saying, but video games influence people to do violent things. Maybe they might influence people to do violent things or get interested in guns. And basically throughout the entire article that I was arguing with him about, and he accused me of not being able to understand words. So he's kind of a pretentious cunt. He was basically saying, oh, but video games lead into an interest for guns, and that's bad. And that's bad. But then at the bottom, there's this paragraph where he says, like, and you should dismiss righteously all arguments that video games cause mass shootings or gun violence. But then he says right below it, but you shouldn't ignore the smaller details. That right there cancels out doesn't that argument cancel out The previous sentence?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
And he was telling me that I didn't understand words. I'm like, you don't understand how your words read to other people, you dumb fuck. Now I call him croissante. Croissante.
Stop! I almost dropped my croissant.
Yeah. I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
You go do that, and preferably not in your pants.
I just want to find that one tweet.
You know the one I'm talking about, right?
I have it on my timeline. God damn it, where is it? Because I don't want to misquote it. I'm just doing an F.
Here it is. I got the one from Kukurio's.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I have it as well. I'm gonna screen share.
Yep.
Because I retweeted it as well.
Oh, I just sent you the link directly to it right there.
Yeah, no. I have it just above. So here, +1. All of this Trump using video games as a scapegoat. Ha. Ha. So I have this. Go back. Too far. Where is it? Here we go. Huh? Are you really sure, Anita? Are you really sure about this? Because it's not like something is gonna bite you in the fucking ass. No, not that one.
Damn it, Twitter.
Come on. Hopefully it's the right one.
No,
there we go.
Oh, there we go. Awful sexist video games, but God of War 3 is really one of the most brazenly misogynist titles ever produced.
Video games, can we please just stop all this brooding, unemotional, aggressive, sexist, male anti-hero protagonist?
We don't need to read all of them. It's all basically all the same. You can go to the next screenshot at this point. I mean, it's all and it's a repeated thing here. Fallout 4, Dishonored 2, Doom.
Yeah. This level of extreme violence shouldn't be considered normal. It's not an excuse to say it's expected because Doom. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And here, it's really troubling and depressing that the Bethesda E3 audience is enthusiastically cheering for bodies being ripped apart.
Come on, that was half the enjoyment out of Doom. Some of those glory kills were just ridiculous.
Mm. Only a few minutes into Bethesda press conference, and it's wall-to-wall glorification of grotesque violence. Are you sure about this, Anita? Is this the hill you want to die on? I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads. It's just gross.
Then don't play games like that. Play the games you want to play.
See, this is why no one should take this woman seriously. Ever.
Pull up the comic real quick, because they need to see that.
Here I have it.
There it is. Yep. Here we go.
Video games are gross, violent, and sexist, and they shape those who play them. They should be changed or censored. I agree. There is totally. I should probably.
They're disgusting and violent influence for kids, and something should be done about it.
I agree. They're disgusting, violent influence to our kids. Something should be done about it. It's huge.
The response, and of course the sudden response is
Yeah, did I say gross and violent? I meant cool and relaxed. I don't share opinions with Trump. Believe me, please don't stop donating.
I love the anime expression in the second panel, though.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my god, what have I done?
It should have made the entire face like white.
Well, the problem is, like I said earlier, she and Trump are basically arguing the same thing from different angles. They have been all along.
Yeah.
Like that video games are bad for you in some form or another. I really, really hate her as a result. And here's the thing. It is possible to hate a woman without hating all women.
Yeah.
I wish people would realize that.
Just be careful that you don't let it consume everything about you.
Yeah. Well,
That's
no,
that's the one tough part.
well, I'm not spending every day of the week thinking about Anita Sarkeesian. The problem is she keeps on interjecting herself into everything, so you can't help but think about Anita Sarkeesian.
Yeah. Fair.
Just like Zoe Quinn and Brianna Wu. It's like everything. Like, I remember in the early days of Gamergate, there was this 4chan thread posted by a guy where he had strangled some woman and posted the pictures and said, I just strangled someone for real. And then Brianna Wu interjected within an hour after that, saying, and please, because it was like an anonymous 4chan or posting it, right? She was like, and people tell me not to be afraid of anonymous online death threats. And I said, I called it, because the minute I saw that thread popping up, I said, Brianna Wu's going to interject at some point and say, this is about her. And she did.
Didn't take long.
Nope, not at all.
Oh,
I think we've pretty much covered it. Just
I think so.
the stupidity that made me lose a lot of brain cells. Is there anything you want to show? I'm gonna put your links if you send them to me, just
Yep.
so I can.
Wait, you don't
Andy,
have
you
my
have- you
links?
have my
I'm
link.
insulted.
You have my links.
Yeah, I have your links.
Y'all need to get on Steam it. Like, seriously, the site is fantastic. I just had a meet. I just organized a meetup local in my area. Had like 4 people show up. We talked. We drank beer. We had fun, and it was a great time. And it's a great community. There's a lot of really awesome people there, and you can stand to gain a lot by joining it. I think you and your viewers should check it out. And you have my link. You guys
put
know
them
how to
in
find me on there. I'm actually running a giveaway this week on Steemit. You got to be a member, which if you might be a little slow on the up. You might be a little too late for some of your for some of your viewers. But I'm giving away a copy of Street Fighter Cross Tekken on Steemit for people that are currently on there.
And Salt, you want to show your channel or anything like that?
Well, I have my YouTube channel called Uncut_Salt. And it's a fun little game channel where I let's play a lot of games, and me and my friend are currently completing Halo 2 Legendary co-op Let's Play. And you can also check out my Twitter feed at thoughtful_salt, where I dispense snark in generous doses.
Yay, snark.
All right, I think that's a good way to end it. So thank you all for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.